Hey, what's going on, folks? Thanks for tuning in to Cinema Hooked. I'm Chris, and today we're going to be talking about Michael Shanks' new body horror film, Together, starring Dave Franco and Alison Brie. Giving my thoughts on it. This is a full spoiler review, by the way, so if you don't want spoilers, I suggest waiting until you've seen the movie and then come back, and I would love to hear what you guys think, and then you can hear what I think, and let's have a discussion, because I like keeping the conversation going after the video ends. Before I dive into the movie, though, this is a chance for me to just ask, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Small channel like mine, every subscription counts, every view counts, really helps me keep going. With that said, let's dive into Together. Okay, so Together. My initial thoughts. Interesting. I'll say it's interesting. The concepts of it, there's definitely, concepts to this movie. It's supposed to kind of make you think about things. It's not a deep thinking movie. Don't let me fool you. It's not this like really deep thinking, like, oh my God, this is just the most brilliant piece of cinema I've ever seen in my life. It's not that, but it is interesting. Comical at times, whether or not that was the intent of Michael Shanks, who also wrote the movie. I'm not sure, but there were a couple times when my wife and I, we laughed. We thought some scenes were funny. But it's definitely interesting. And the general plot of this movie basically is codependency. People being almost too attached to each other. Like, just metaphorically, but also actually in this movie. Literally, connected together. And trying to wrap my head around what I just saw. Because it was definitely silly. It was silly. I'll say that. Silly. It wasn't campy necessarily. It wasn't a campy horror film. It was kind of silly at times. But like I said, it was interesting. And I did enjoy myself. Is this the greatest movie ever? No. There are some critics out there who've said, like, best horror movie of the year. And I was thinking about it, I was like, have there really been any relevant horror movies this year until this one? And I don't think there has been. So it was a great time to put that quote out there by whoever that critic was, because Weapons comes out next week, and I'm pretty sure that's probably going to win like awards, come award season. So best horror movie of the year, sure, it can hold that title for a week. I mean, like I said, it was interesting. I did enjoy myself, but for opening night on Thursday, me, my wife, and maybe 6 other people in the theater. That's not a great sign. So I don't know if that's just marketing or what have you, but yeah, back to the plot, codependency. I'm sure we've all been there. We've all experienced that in some shape or form. So when we were dating, we were maybe obsessive, felt like we needed them all the time, maybe being like needy and stuff like that. Doing a whole movie about that concept, though, that was something. Like I said, it was interesting. But outside of the codependency, I mean, that's basically the plot. Codependency and being like obsessed with each other. Or not really obsessed with each other, but needing the other person in your life. Always. Like, you cannot be away from them. You just can't. But let's dive into some of the stuff that actually took place in the movie and kind of dive into that. What worked? What didn't work? That was silly. That was cool. Was there anything cool? There were cool scenes. There were some cool scenes, so let's get into that. So as far as the horror part of this whole thing, it's a body horror or whatever. So this is not I wouldn't say this is a scary movie by any means. There are 2 or 3 kind of cheap jump scares that they might make you be like, son of a, but there's nothing that's like, oh my God. There was maybe one, and like I said, it's still a cheap jump scare, but there was one good one early on in the film that I did like. It was kind of like, whoa, because it was just like right in your face. It's hard to miss. So, like I said, cheap jump scare. It wasn't really like earned. And it was kind of those ones you're like, something's about to happen and I'm ready for it. And it happened, you're like, oh, okay. Kind of got me, but also saw it coming like 10 miles away. But there were some cool scenes. The body horror element of it, I mean, obviously you've seen the trailers, you see like the eyeballs like connecting with each other. There's a point in the movie where like the arms are starting to like go like inside of each other, which that scene, it's silly. That was the part that made me and my wife laugh. There's a scene where they're starting to connect through the arms and stuff, and they're trying to think of a way to like make it stop, and he has some diazepam or something like that, lorazepam, something like that, some sort of muscle relaxing drug, and they're both just, they emptied the pills onto the floor and they're taking as many as they can. And he's like, crush them up, snort them, it'll, we'll feel the effects faster. I couldn't help but laugh. I don't know if that was meant to be funny, but it got a few laughs out of the few people that were in the theater. The movement of the bodies, there's parts where Alison Brie's character is like bending backwards and like, you think she's looking at you like straight on, but then as she walks out of the hallway, you see she's actually backwards and she's like bent in half, and then she like spins around. It was creepy. That kind of stuff is creepy. Kind of very, The Ring, kind of with the body manipulation, like the twerky necks and stuff like that. It was good. I like that element of it. Performances by Dave Franco and Alison Brie, I thought they were good. Again, this isn't the strongest movie, so I'm not going to fault the actors for anything in this movie. It is not the worst movie ever. Do I think you should see it in theaters? If you saw the trailer and you thought, oh, that's interesting, then I think go see it. If you watch the trailer and you're like, that looks stupid, then probably don't go see it. I thought it seemed interesting. And I saw a review by another critic, Griffin, and he was not very kind to the movie, and it kind of like soured me, and I was like, should I just like get a refund on my tickets and not go? I was like, you know what, no, I want to do movie reviews, so I got to see movies to do that. And so I was like, no, I'm gonna keep the tickets, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna see it for myself, judge it for myself. And like I said, it is silly, it's not great, but it was entertaining. Went to matinee showing at 5:30, so the tickets were a little bit cheaper with Cinemark. And yeah, hey, get some popcorn, get some candy. It was a nice couple hours outside of the house, so that was fine. I'd say I wouldn't say the best part, but there were some good trailers ahead of the movie. Those were good. But let's get in a little deeper as to more concepts of this and going a little bit deeper on the whole cult and stuff like that. I haven't talked about the cult, so let's talk about the kind of whole cult religion thing that was going on there. So in this movie, it starts out basically Alison Brie's character and James Franco character. They have a going away party with all their friends and stuff like that. And his girlfriend, Alison Brie, you think she's proposing, but there's not a ring. It's like fake imaginary box, basically like, I want to spend my life with you. So they're partners. They're not engaged or anything like that. They're partners. That's it. Not boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, co-inhabitants. They're each other's partner. And she got a new job as a teacher in a small town, a couple hours outside of where they lived in the city, and she becomes a teacher. She meets a gentleman named Jamie, and I know I said I was going to talk about the cult, and this is my lead up to it. This Jamie character, played by Damon Harriman, he kind of just looks creepy. And I don't know if it's like the glasses thing, but he definitely he was supposed to be creepy, and he came across creepy. Friendly, but there's something up with him. And he talks about how, later in the movie he talks to the couple because he comes over to their house to be like, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. I live right over there, yellow house on the corner. And he talks about the couple that went missing because they're discussing about how they got lost in the cave where he drinks the water, and that's kind of where everything goes downhill. And he's like, oh yeah, there was a chapel out there. There were a bunch of people, and it was like a religion. And he's like, oh, like a cult. And he's like, no, not quite a cult, And she's like, what happened to all the people? And he's like, oh, mass suicide. And then it was just a joke by him, obviously. But he was doing more research on the couple that went missing because the Jamie character mentioned oh, it's a good thing you guys got your way home because not so long ago, two people, got lost and nobody ever found them. And Dave Franco's character does more research on that. He finds pictures of the couple online, and later in the movie we find out a little bit more about that missing couple. But yeah, there was a cult. It was a church, and it did collapse, and it ended up underground. So when they were in this cave, you see kind of oil paintings, and you see church pews and stuff like that. Let's talk more about that cave and what happened later on in the movie in that cave, because that was quite disturbing, to say the least. Okay, so going back into the cave, at one point in the movie, I talked about the lorazepam, whatever that muscle relaxer was, where their arms conjoined. Well, they weren't able to separate them. They tried to separate them. He comes to, and he's tied up in a chair. She's like, hey, sorry, I didn't have time to talk about this, but we gotta do this. And she has one of those sawzalls, and she's just gonna just cut the skin that's connecting them on their forearms. And it's probably my favorite scene in the movie, if I'm being honest. Like, I thought it had a tiny bit of humor in it. It had a little bit of that kind of gore to it, but not overly gore. You know, you don't have to look away. It wasn't anything terrible. Like, if you've seen Hostel, you can handle this. Nothing terrible, but like I said, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But they do separate, they bandage each other up, and she wants to go to the hospital. They kind of argue, but they're like, okay, we'll go to the hospital. And she realizes that she doesn't have her keys, so she goes to the Jamie guy's house to find her keys. And she's like, don't do anything stupid. And that's when Dave Franco's character grabs a rope to rappel down, and he goes back to the hole in the ground, the cave, which was the collapsed church of this cult. So we're getting a little back and forth, and we're kind of figuring things out while watching them, you know, in real time. So she goes to the Jamie's guy's house, who had been in a gay marriage, and there was a conversation about it earlier in the movie. It didn't even show that he had 2 wedding bands on. So I think as an audience, we all assume that, you know, his partner, you know, his husband died, and he wears his ring on his finger now. But as she walks in, he's not around, but a TV starts playing, and it's a little clip that he wanted to show her earlier in the movie from their wedding. And we also see Dave Franco down in the cave. And I looked at my wife and I was like, I bet there's people like in the walls of this place. And sure enough, just as I say that, like an arm reaches out and grabs his leg. We see a face first, and then he freaks out, and then we see like something else grab his leg. And that was the creepiest part of the movie, because you just see this deformed, you know, 2 people half merged together, and they're just all mutated and just honestly disgusting. And absolutely disgusting looking. And you can kind of hear them, like, it sounded like they were begging for Dave Franco's character to kill them. His name's Tim, by the way. And they're like, kill us or kill me. And their eyes are all just disgusting scene. Meanwhile, Alison Brie's character, she's at the Jamie's guy's house, and she's watching their wedding ceremony, which is at the church that collapsed. You see the bells, you know, they have like these bells with this symbol on them that are all over the church. And you see the whole church go down into the cave, and they cut their forearms open, and they conjoin. So that Jamie guy and his husband became one. You know, and he's saying, oh, it's the closest you'll ever be together. It's a wonderful thing if you let it happen. And then we go back to Dave Franco in that cave, and those creatures are on top of him, and they're not like trying to hurt him, but they're like begging for him to kill him. And there's already a knife like in the neck of him. So he takes the knife and he like cuts off like 4 of their fingers on one of the hands, and he gets away. And oh man, I was kind of hoping he would kill him, like put him out of their misery, because it was really disturbing. And like, imagine, because they didn't let the process finish. And the Jamie guy says that. He's like, you know, if you fight it, you know, it could be a lot worse. I was thinking they were going to find a way to like not conjoin, but at the end, you know, after everything's said, they just accept that they both codepend on each other. And they mutually decide, we're going to merge. So they strip down, and you see their bodies just become one. And yeah, let's talk about that last scene in the movie. Let's talk about the ending and how that went. So they merge, and it doesn't show the full merge completion. It just shows that basically they've like, you know, they're like, like 90%, 80% of the way, you know, conjoined. And it pans over to his laptop, and then the lighting kind of changes, and it pans over to their dining room table. They're not standing in front of the dining room table anymore, but there's 3 plates set. And I was like, did they have people over? And my wife was like, oh, the parents were coming over on Sunday. I was like, oh, that's right. So we see the parents' car pull up, and they get out. There's blood on the driveway, but they're like, yeah, they don't think anything of it. Whatever. It could be anything. Could be anything. And they brought some sort of food or something, and they walk over to the front door, and they ring the bell, which it pans out, and we see that it's one of those church bells, which they didn't show on the Jamie's guy's house, but he had a ringing bell too. And it would have been a dead giveaway if they'd shown the bell, then we would have known. It was nice finding out later, even though I had my suspicions, but it was a nice confirmation. Oh, they're like part of that cult now, that religion, you know. At the end of it, they were like, all right, we're in with it. So they ring the bell, they open the door, and we see a 50-50 version of Dave Franco and Alison Brie mixed, which I never needed to see. It was not disturbing, it was just jarring. It was like, whoa. And then the voice was like a mixture of both their voices, and it just looks at the parents like, hey. And then that was the end of the movie. So that was an interesting ending. I thought it would just look like him or it would just look like her. But, you know, it was interesting to say the least. I don't know how that works, but I think she could play the guitar really well like he did now. And now he can drive a car like she did before. And now she can cook like he did. Because early in the movie we find out about how they both have these skills and how one person's great at this, but they suck at this, and the other person's great at that, but they suck at this other thing. So, like I said, it's interesting. Like, again, not the greatest movie, not the worst movie. I have definitely seen worse movies than this, but it was interesting. So, my advice, if you were thinking about seeing this, if you saw the trailer and you thought, I think it looks interesting, go see it. If you saw the trailer and you're like, that's silly, don't go see it. Wait for it to stream somewhere. You know, hey, I like to support movies and go to the movie theater, but I want to give you my honest opinion. You know, if you thought it looked silly and stupid, don't see it, because you'll probably think it's silly and stupid. And even though I enjoyed it, I mean, it was kind of silly and stupid, but I don't regret seeing it. I'm glad I saw it. You know, I like to see as many movies as I can these days, and I like doing these reviews. And, you know, you probably didn't make it this far in the video. If you didn't see it, you're here because you did see it and you wanted to hear my thoughts. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. So please, in the comments, tell me what you guys thought. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was it the worst thing ever? I would love to hear what you thought. Did you have a favorite scene? Did you have a worse scene in the movie? You know, let me know in the comments. I'd love to reply to them. I reply to everyone. And again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Helps keep me going, gives me inspiration that people enjoy this content. And again, if you ever have any critiques, anything I can improve on, I'd love to hear it. So let me know. And until next time, I'm Chris, and this is Cinema Hooked, and thanks for tuning in. Catch you on the next one.